Welcome, or welcome back. My name is Colin Savage. I'm here today with the lovely and talented Alison Melville to present a concert of recorder music for you on behalf of the Chamber Music Society of Mississauga as part of their At Home series. And we are indeed at home. Today we'd like to play some music from the 20th century and some music from the 18th century with a particular focus on bass lines. Since the advent of functional harmony in the early 17th century, the role of the bass part in any ensemble has been to underpin or delineate the harmony, either by playing the notes of the chord as the music progresses, or by playing notes that imply a particular harmony against the melody parts above. The other important role of the bass is to provide rhythmic impetus in this Western music particularly, either by moving the harmonies along in what we call harmonic motion, or else by playing one long note and lending an air of calm and static beauty to the movement. The first piece we'd like to play is a movement from J.S. Bach's motet Jesu meine Freude. This movement is called Gute Nacht, O Wesen, Good Night, O Spirit. And in fact, in this one, the bass has the most important part. It has the melody and also most of the text that goes through the piece. The upper two voices, which we'll play, basically just comment on the proceedings. And once in a while, you'll hear the tenor part come in, and it plays the cantus firmus, what's it called, the chorale tune of the piece. So we hope you enjoy Gute Nacht, O Wesen. So you could hear in that first piece that Bach uses fairly simple materials to create an effective bass line. He goes up the scale in stepwise motion, has an expressive leap down, he repeats that, and he starts at the top with a scale coming down. The next piece we'd like to play for you has a similar walking bass line in stepwise motion. And this is Tears of a Clown by Smokey Robinson, Stevie Wonder, and H.Cosby. You will periodically hear a bit of bass clarinet. That's in there just for expressive accents. So the genesis of this piece was that Stevie and H.Cosby had in fact recorded the music for it, but they couldn't come up with a lyric for this song. So they brought the recording to the Motown Studios Christmas party and gave it to Smokey Robinson and said, "Here, what can you do with this?" And Smokey listened to it and he thought, it sounds like the circus. It has a certain calliope kind of effect. There's the opening particularly has piccolo and bassoon, one of the rare uses of bassoon in popular music, and I think it's particularly brilliant because the bassoon is often used in the orchestra to denote humor, but also a sort of wistful longing. So that just fits perfectly with this piece. Maybe Alison will play the bassoon lick for us.
Okay.
You're hired.
Thank you.
So Smokey Robinson wanted to write a lyric that would touch people, something sad, and the music sounded a little perky, so he was wondering what to do, and then he was reminded of the story of Pagliacci, the Italian clown who was laughing on the outside and crying on the inside. In fact, late in the song he says, "Just like Pagliacci did, I keep my sadness hid."
And we're going to return to the 18th century now. We're going to play 3 movements from a duet by a composer named P.D.Philidor. I know that's not exactly a household name these days, but he was a member of a very famous musical family in the 17th and 18th centuries in France. He was a member of the 4th generation of this family of musicians who worked for the royal court. And in fact, Pierre spent most of his working life in Versailles, and that's in fact where he died. He was an oboe player and was connected with 2 groups of musicians at Versailles. One was the chamber music for the royal household, so for example, music while the king was having dinner, or sometimes also when the king was having a hard time getting to sleep, he would bring in musicians to the bedroom to play music, much like what we're going to play for you just now. And for those of you who are chess fans, you might have thought, oh, do I recognize that name, Philidor? And yes, you did, because Pierre was the cousin of another Philidor, François André, who is a very famous, in the history of chess, one of the best chess players ever, apparently. Kind of, I guess, you could say the Garry Kasparov of his time. And 2 moves in chess are named for him. So yes, this is the same family. Now, the chess player also was a composer of operas, maybe in his spare time when he wasn't playing chess. But anyway, so we have 3 movements from a duet. We're going to play an air en rondeau. So what this is that a tune, the theme, we'll play that twice, and then there's a little variation. Then we come back to the theme, another different segment, and then we come back to the theme again. Then there will be a sarabande, which is a slow dance in triple time. And then there's also a fugue, which is actually more like a canon, more where the first person plays something and the second part repeats exactly what the first part played, but it doesn't always remain that way. But anyway, so here are 3 movements by P.D.Philidor. probably noticed in the last movement, you heard kind of an unusual wavering sound, and you may have noticed us doing things like this, where the sound changed imperceptibly or perceptible enough that you noticed it, but not a big deal. And French Baroque music is particularly full of lots of different kinds of ornamentation. It's one of the tricky things when you're learning to play it. How do you interpret all these different little curlicue signs and crosses and scratches on the page that look like some bird got loose with some ink on its feet? So we do things like trills, and we have something like the lower mordant. But then you also have little filler notes as well, like filled in thirds, a tierce coulée. So things like that. But then you also have this very fancy one called a flattement. And basically what that is a finger vibrato. And so like maybe in contemporary music nowadays that would be called an extended technique. It'd be a pretty simple one, but an extended technique. So it makes a vibrato of a different quality than the one you would make with your air. You can do it normally with your breath. But you can also do with your fingers, and there's some quite specific explanations of how to do it in some of the books on, how to play the flute, how to play the oboe. So for example, on that same note, so you get quite a different effect than the breath vibrato, but anyway, it's called a flattement, and you'll be hearing some more of them in this next movement. The next tune we're going to play for you is Penny Lane, which is a Beatles tune written by John Lennon and Paul McCartney, like so many of the Beatles tunes were. The title refers to an area in South Liverpool, which was a transit junction point. It was a place where John and Paul, when they were kids visiting each other, they would change buses at that transit point. And also in the neighborhood there's a barber shop, which you can hear referred to in the song, and that's where they also got their hair cut. So lots of memories in that part of South Liverpool for them. The tune Penny Lane was actually recorded in 1967, but while they were working on it, Paul McCartney had thought that the instrumental interludes that they were producing, he wasn't very happy with that, so he was wondering what to do. And one day he was listening to the BBC and he heard a performance on the radio of Bach's Brandenburg Concerto No. 2, which has a very fancy and very difficult trumpet part as one of the solo instrumental parts. And he thought this was fantastic. It was being played at that point on piccolo trumpet by a session musician named David Mason. And Paul thought, wow, that guy's amazing. We have to get that guy on a recording. That would be so fantastic. And so that's how we ended up with this great trumpet solo on the original of Penny Lane. The single was released in February of 1967. It was actually released as what they call a double A-side single, because on the other side of it was Strawberry Fields Forever, and they were both big hits, which is pretty unusual for a single. That's why it's called double A-side. Because most of the time when you hear the B-side of a single, of a 45, that's 45 RPM for those of you watching who don't know what I'm talking about. So 45 RPM single. Most of the B-sides are pretty lame.
On vinyl.
On vinyl. But vinyl's back. Oh, there you
Product placement.
Product placement. Anyway, so in keeping with the theme of bass lines as well, this bass line is similar to the others in that it's moving often in the stepwise motion, up or down the scale. And it keeps the rhythm, it keeps the groove, it keeps the rest of the parts in line, if you like. And the one thing that's different about the bass line here that you don't hear in the song is that the bass actually gets one of the verses, gets the melody for one of the verses in this case. So again, our theme of melodic bass lines. I should also point out, while we're talking about the arrangements, because this is an arrangement obviously playing, Colin has done the arrangements, Colin Savage has done the arrangements of every piece in this concert with the exception of the Philidor duets. So he does a great job of arranging these tunes, so it's really fun to be able to play them on recorded consort. Really great fun, so thank you, Colin.
You're welcome. And I must also compliment Alison. We here at Melville Savage Productions are often concerned with historically informed and authentic performances, and Alison has been working on her 1967 Beatles haircut for months now.
Yes.
And I think she's doing it.
COVID.
Looks good.
The COVID gift, yes.
And she did try, as some of you may know, Paul played the bass this way. She did try switching her hands around, but it didn't really work well because of the keys. So we do what we can. We hope you enjoy Penny Lane. Before we play our last piece, we'd like to thank Peggy Hills and the Chamber Music Society of Mississauga for inviting us to play this concert. And we'd like to acknowledge their sponsors, the Bread and Honey Festival in Streetsville and the Hazel McCallion Foundation. Thanks for your support. We'd also like to thank Tristan Engel for his video editing skills. He's assembled all of this for us. And the last piece is Tracks of My Tears by Smokey Robinson, another Motown tune. I've always liked playing Motown on recorders because we get to emulate the miracles, the inner voices. I always like those parts. This bass line was created by a man named James Jamerson, who was a member of the house band at Motown Studios in Detroit. They were responsible for hundreds of hits in the 60s. Aretha Franklin, Marvin Gaye,
Supremes.
the Supremes, all kinds of people, Smokey Robinson. And James Jamerson was the band was collectively known as the Funk Brothers. Jamerson and many of the others would record in the daytime at Motown Studios and then play in the jazz clubs in the evening. Jamerson was particularly known for his melodic and chromatic bass lines. He also had a unique playing style, possibly because he played stand-up bass in the jazz bands. Most electric bass players play with two fingers. He only used his index finger, so he was known as the hook. And I've tried to do what I can to mimic his bass part on the bass clarinet. I'm not quite as funky as him, but we certainly enjoy this. So here's Tracks of My Tears.